So let the program begin. We have 4 outstanding guests. Oh, and hi, Kendra, welcome. And Chanel, oh, good, people are starting to come in. It's just in time for the program to begin. So we have 4 incredible guests who live dangerous lives, and I think probably have fun doing it. And I am going to hand it over to Barry, who invited 2 of them, to introduce each one. After you have each been introduced, once all 4 of you have been introduced, I would like for each of you to take a turn, spend a few minutes to elaborate on that. Who are you? What do you do? A few minutes until we go and move on to the Q&A session with the audience. So, Barry.
All right. So we've got Marc Anthony Baca. He's an actor, stunt performer, and stunt coordinator with almost 30 years in the film business. He's a former U.S. member, World Cup, 6th-degree black belt, and nominated 3 times into the Black Belt Hall of Fame. He's the founder of the Guardian Anti-Bullying Program. He owns the Stunt Ranch right outside of Austin, Dripping Springs, and we're glad that he's with us tonight. He's also a client. We've got Christian Stokes. He's worked in the film industry. He's worked in the industry for 25 years as an actor and stuntman. As an actor, he's worked with Jennifer Garner, Matthew McConaughey, Bruce Dern, Sylvester Stallone, and Charlize Theron in the award-winning film Monster. As a stuntman that specializes in high falls, he has had over 13,000 falls since his first stint at Six Flags in 1995. In recent years, he's appeared in TV shows like Leverage, Redemption, Doom Patrol, as well as the feature film, most recently South of Heaven. And so welcome, Christian Stokes.
Thank you, sir.
Anthony.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So my introduction will be shorter. You guys, Steve and Ben, you're going to have to finish them off, but I'll start with, I got in touch with you first, Steve. So I'll start with you. Steve, I kind of, sort of, not quite in person, met quite a number of years ago regarding a web festival that used to go on here in Austin. And when I got back in touch with him all this time later, it was after seeing him on television, because apparently, and it might be more by now, I caught him at the end of a whirlwind of interviews about set safety. It was 22 at the time we spoke. He's had his ranch on Fitzhugh, I think, Boulevard for quite a long time. And he also has a super cool invention, a method that can be used to extinguish fires, wildfires, because we haven't found success yet. This might be it. So that's pretty exciting. He's been in the business a long time. He's taught classes, he's won awards. And then I will move to, so Benjamin, we have met in person so many times. That means you have some of the best hugs. Benjamin is an actor, he's a fight coordinator, he's incredibly athletically gifted. The way this fella can move, you should see. Even the still photos are just astonishing. He's also a filmmaker. He also co-founded the Austin Action Fest, which is really great. It's the only festival of its kind, at least in this area, maybe a broader area. He co-founded Ballistic Blade Entertainment long ago. I remember when we first met talking about that. He's produced films for that and other things. And he can tell you about what he just finished a film that has yet to be released. It'll be getting released in January, where there were several assistant stunt coordinators. He was the stunt coordinator. So there's Ben. Now, if you guys could duke it out to decide which of you goes first to say a little more about yourselves for a few minutes, it's your turn, speakers. Yes, clapping works. I'm really glad all four of you are here and the attendees as well.
It's like Marc wants to go first.
Okay, go for it.
Hey, you're muted, Marc.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I know all these guys. First of all, Christian, man, an awesome guy. I met him through Barry. We got a lot of mutual friends. I have a lot of respect for this man. I look up to him. He's a good person. His heart's in the right place. So I know if I was to bring him on to help me out, I know he'd do a good job, and safety is always number one. Benjamin, I known him for a little bit. We've met several times before, and I worked on a project with Benjamin. He's got amazing hands. He's got amazing skills working with the fight choreography. I attest to that. Good guy, very humble. Steve Wolf has been a good friend. He's actually helped me out quite a bit. He owns Stunt Ranch, and I took over the area that's in Austin, Texas. He lives in Colorado now, but he's been a huge asset to me lately. We've been actually working on a lot of stuff together. He's been feeding me projects, and very knowledgeable. I mean, sometimes I'll call him for advice and say, hey, I'm doing this certain stunt. What do you think? And I have an idea how I want to do it. And he'll throw his 2 cents in there and give me some encouragement. So these guys are awesome. I'm very excited to be part of this live feed with you guys. I just want to say that with what I do, I own a huge line of stunt equipment that most people don't have. I have ratchets, I got air ramps, I have, of course, airbags are easy to get, but I have a lot of equipment that you have to rent from LA or other places. Most stunt guys don't have because they're pretty expensive, or you have to build them. You can't just buy them, and most stunt guys know this. So I have probably $1 million worth of equipment sitting in Austin, Texas, and we can do just about anything from car jumps, car crashes, pipe ramps, you name it, we can do it. I got a good team. Steve can attest to some of the guys that work with me. Adam Jorgensen, he's my pyrotechnician. So we have a really good team. We can pretty much do anything when it comes to stunts, special effects. Like some of these guys, I love to act. I play a good bad guy in film. But yeah, so I'm down to help out with anything. Safety is always number one. Just like these guys here, our reputation is based on the safety and outcome of each project. So I know for a fact that these guys, like myself, when we're doing anything, whether it's firearms, fight choreography, car stunts, anything, we always take the proper procedures and measures to make sure everybody is safe. So if I work with these guys in the future, or if you guys have questions or want to bring me onto a project, I can assure you that safety is number one. Everybody goes home safe, equipment safe, our reputation is good. We move on to the next project. I'm not sure what else to talk about, but yeah, if anybody wants to jump in, that's great.
And first of all, thank you, Marc, man. Thanks for that
was
intro.
great.
Yeah, I mean, there's one of the interesting things about stunts in general is reputation, and you know, safety. You know, we talk about how safety is first, and there's been a lot in the news about safety on sets and whatnot. But you know, one of the cool things about this network, stunts, is really a network. You know, it's because you're vouching for people coming onto set to do things which are dangerous, that can be life-threatening if done improperly. And so as you go through this career, it really, in the stunt world, there's a lot of who you know. You know, there's a network is so important in the stunt world because of the fact that you have to know the people that are capable of doing the things that you need to do, because you don't want to put anybody in a situation that could cause harm. You know, you've got, like if I'm coordinating a gig and I'm calling somebody in, I'll call somebody like Marc or Ben and some people that I respect and know, and I'll like, listen, this is what I need. I don't have anybody. Who do you recommend? And that's how work gets done in this industry. Right. So when the four of us, you know, we sit up here and we speak, it is so cool to look around and see these respected guys and these guys that are, you know, really, they're putting not just their best foot forward, but they're also looking at the industry, trying to keep the safety standards, trying to make sure everybody goes home safe and having fun on a set, you know. Stunts can be crazy. They can, you know, I think we've all probably got some horror stories, but at the end of the day, you know, we've all gone home and we're here to talk about it. So thank you, Marc. And I'm looking forward to getting to know Steve a little better. And of course, Ben, I've known you for a while as well. So thanks for all being here and talking about this very important subject.
Awesome, brother.
Steve, you want it? Can't hear you.
I see you, Benjamin, but I'm not hearing you.
Oh, you don't hear me?
Oh, there, now I do.
Oh yeah, I was letting see if Steven wanted to, thought he was talking. So I'll go while he's getting that set up. I'm Benjamin Nathaniel Reddic II, AKA the Violence Conductor. I do a number of different things. Thank you for that introduction, Judith, and the invitation. Yeah, I've known these guys for a while, been out at the Stunt Ranch many times. Steve just worked with Marc on a project, had some really, really cool guys I've known for a while. He does some great things specifically with explosives and the wild stuff that I don't actually do that much of. So we had a good time. He was blowing some stuff up. It was really, really nice. And I saw him build a custom flamethrower. I think that was Empire Shadows, right? It created, It was crazy. The dude has skill and a bunch of gear. Like, as he said, that if we want to use those sorts of things, we have to go get that stuff from California. So great resource if you need some gear. As far as Christian, yes, me and Christian have been associates for quite some time now. He's called me a number of times. Hopefully we'll do some stuff in the future. But for the record, I got a call today. I got to up my horse riding skills because apparently they need some dudes like me in some Westerns. So apparently that's happening. So, you know, it is what it is. As far as, so I started Ballistic Blade Entertainment about 9 years ago, and the intention was to produce content. And I started to slide more into that side of things, producing content. I still do work in front of the camera as a stunt man. I will act, but I didn't get into this to be an actor. I got into to do, you know, produce. And the quickest way to do that was to do stunts, because that's where my skill sets were in fighting, martial arts, dance, and all that kind of stuff. And then from that, I made relationships and made inroads into being on the other side of the camera. So I use whatever, I put my body on the line to get noticed and known, and to get my way in the door or whatever, and be of value to whatever production I was on. So that's where I started. During that process, we shot movies, we shot commercials, we shot weddings, we shot whatever you needed shot. You know, Ballistic Blade Entertainment, our thing was making you and what you do look good. So we're still doing that. I still run camera crews. In addition to that, I have a production team that does music, and we're starting to do some stuff with VFX. I got some stuff working with that. We're producing a fantasy project we just wrapped on about in September. So I got a fantasy movie I'm working on, crowdfunding. We're going to do like 150 grand or so, shoot something in Texas with fantasy and swords. I'm writing another project for an investor that's going to be some Jason Bourne gun type stuff, AR-15, you know, the fun stuff that everybody wants to do now. So I got some producing things like that going on. In addition to that, I am also the creator of the Austin Action Fest and Market, along with Dashe Moonbeam, you know him as Jeffrey Johnson, and Chilinboy Washington. We started the Austin Action Fest and Market, and the market part is very important. It's not just a film festival. It is a film festival, but it is designed to help us get in contact with producers, distributors, financiers, the type of people we need. Christian, you mentioned it, their show business. There's twice as many letters in the side business, a show. And so what we try to focus on at Austin Action Fest and Market is getting the right people in the room so that you're just not getting an award and an accolade and walking home. I'm trying to get people deals here. And so in our last event, we were able to do that and connect people who were looking for fight choreographers or looking for new projects and put them together with people like Wellgo USA and other filmmakers here in Austin, Texas, and the surrounding areas. So those are the two main things that I really do: Austin Action Fest and Ballistic Blade Entertainment. I'm glad you guys have me here. I specialize more so in the fight choreography, low recs, mid-level falls, not as much of the high stuff, not as much of the burning, but if you needed some, if you want some kick stabbing, chasing and jabbing, like that's what I specialize in. The violent martial arts action, that's what we're good at. So appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much, Ben. That was great. Next
That's
up.
tough act to follow there. Do I have audio now?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, but if anyone can follow that, you can, Steve.
I'm going to do my best. Well, first of all, I feel very honored to be in with this distinguished crowd, because the stunt and special effects community is not just about, what you know, how you can wire something up, how you can kick somebody, whatever. It's really character driven. And, I think the four of us are pretty strong characters. I've been on the news a lot lately as a firearms expert with relation to the Alec Baldwin case. And I take it for granted that most people understand, the basic rules of gun safety. Hannah Reid probably even understands them. But what Hannah lacked was the presence and the authority to command a set when it comes to safety. And I think that's something that, the four of us kind of bring, that we've been around for a few years, and we're not going to let, little green ADs or people who have, accolades behind their name tell us what to do. When we are setting up stunts, when we're setting up effects, when we're doing pyro, it's our set, and we take responsibility for what goes on safety wise. And if production doesn't like it for some reason, they can stuff it, they can get somebody else to come do it. But we don't take chances with the safety of our comrades and our reputations. And I think that's really an important part of what makes safety safe. Not just what it's not just that we happen to be engineers who, unlike astrophysicists, can be wrong about the expansion rate of the galaxy. You can be off by millions of miles per hour about how fast the galaxy's expanding and still keep your job at a university. We do the type of engineering where if we make a mistake, somebody gets killed. So we have very high stakes science and very important work that we do. So I don't know, that's kind of in a nutshell why I'm glad to be with this gang here.
Wow. Well said.
Thank you, Steve. That was great. Oh my goodness. I just feel so fortunate that we're getting to pick your brains, all four of you. It's just, wow, the wealth of experience and knowledge and dedication. And thank you so much. Now, some of you touched on things that others knew. We're going to take some Q&As in a few minutes, but I was wondering if there were things that you could expand on among the four of you, because apparently you do all kind of know each other.
Absolutely. I know all these guys through reputation if I don't know them personally. And Ben and I have circled camps for years. I get a project and I'll call him in, and the director just sometimes leaves me short on Ben trying to get him in. But and that's the way it works. Texas is a community. I'm a Texas boy, born and raised, and my family's still there. I still go back as often as I can. I wish they get those film incentives worked out so I would never have to leave again. But the Texas industry, we like to take care of each other. We hate to see the work leave, so we want to make sure that we take care of each other as much as we possibly can. And you get into, we talk about safety. Look, a stunt is action, controlled action. That's what a stunt is. It's something that in real life is dangerous. Fire, car stunts, high falls. These are not things that you do. You don't go out Sunday and have a picnic and do a high fall. These are things that you have to figure out how to make these things work as safely as possible. And we're never going to be able to completely take the element of danger out of stunt work. That's why you have stunt guys. That's why stunt guys come in to do the work, and the actors have a double. You want to ensure that that you protect as many people as possible. It's funny because they talk about Tom Cruise, how he does all of his own stunts. He does, but there is a stunt guy that comes in that does it first to make sure he doesn't die, and then he'll do the stunt once it's been, once somebody else has already done it, to make sure that it's not something that's going to leave Tom in a puddle of goo. So stunt guys, the unsung hero. The great thing about stunts is it's coming into the light. There was a time when stunts was kind of like you didn't want the audience to know that it wasn't the actor that was doing the fall. You wanted to get that complete immersion, suspension of disbelief. But now, we're really starting to kind of come into our own. I'm a stunt actor. I started off as an actor. I was waiting tables in Dallas and got hired for a live action stunt show at Six Flags over Texas in 1995. And I'm no dummy. I learned everything that I could possibly learn because I saw that as an avenue to further my career. And over time, when I got in Hollywood, I was getting a few acting bits. I was getting a few stunt bits, and then some of my stunt guys noticed that I was doing acting work, and they're like, "Look, we could start using you for dialogue and doing stunts. We need a guy that will deliver a line and then get dropped with a squib." And I started working as a stunt actor, and so my worlds collided. And now that is a thing. For the past 8 projects I've been on, I've been hired specifically as a stunt actor. Doom Patrol was straight stunt acting. I just got through doing a film where I have to deliver dialogue with Javier Bardem before, he knocks me out cold. It's cool. I love it. It's right up in my wheelhouse. All these years that I've spent, you can start to blend these worlds. Ben talks about how he's blending the world of producing and bringing these action films and all this stuff. And the things that we do, we are not one-dimensional people. We're not two-dimensional people. We are fully dimensional. So we have all these interests and all these likes, and we like to marry them together. Steve, the science of stunts, and that's truly interesting to me. The way that we're able to take these different paths to get to the same place. The stunt world is not just throwing punches and hitting the ground. It has evolved into something. All the films that are blockbusters today, when you take a look at them, the science, the technology that goes into the creation of the Avengers, of the Star Wars saga, it's another level. And so stunts has evolved to the point that, it is a necessary tool to be able to advance the storylines that we're trying to advance today, but yet, and still keep it safe and still keep people, knowledgeable. So it's amazing. I'm amazed at where we're going today.
Wow, thank you, Christian. In fact, Steve, he brought up the science of stunt work. Let's see, what is your class is called? I think I have it in your bio, but maybe.
I teach something called Stunt Science Day, and I've performed at over 5,000 schools, teaching kids about science, using movie stunts and special effects as the hook to get them excited. That kids don't want to learn about thermodynamics, if you call it that, but they sure would like to know how come an actor can be set on fire and not burn. So I started this program called Science in the Movies back in 1992, before some of you were born. Maybe not in this room, but
Hey.
to get out there and generate interest in STEM, before STEM was a word.
I saw that. Nice work.
Been fun.
And it's technology that has driven the film industry, you know, and it's that is the kind of science that, you know, you look at things before Jurassic Park, you look at all the practical effects, you know, they, at that time, the Descender, Dar Robinson, famous stunt guy, he was jumping off buildings using a descender, which basically is an apparatus that slows him down as he falls. And that was a new thing then. And now we're using CGI, we're using wire work, we're using, there's so many elements like air rams. Marc's got a bunch of air rams. I haven't seen an air ram used in a while because now they're using wire work for a lot of stuff. So it's like funny. My specialty is high falls. You know, we talked about 13,000 high falls. If you put all my falls together, I've fallen 47 miles in the air in my career. You know, it's pretty crazy, but that's not something we do so much anymore. Now it's all descenders. Everybody's falling on wires and whatnot. So my specialty is kind of going the way of the dodo a little bit. So, but that's okay because I'm becoming a coordinator and I'm learning who does the best work, and I bring those guys in and let them do the best work, make me look good. That's the way I want to move forward.
You're still very relevant.
And just so you know, I have descenders too. I get descenders and we do the wire work. We do all the rigging for wire work. So just so you know, we can do it.
That's something that I've seen a lot of people wanting to do in Texas more. I get called in for a lot of projects. Normally, the budgets of Texas filmmakers when they're indie, they don't have a ton. And so they don't want to pull out all the toys. And it's one of the things I've been pushing for, especially with my guys, because we have I have a harness, like I have a yank harness. No one's asking to use it. And so I'm like, I guess we got to create something where we need some wires because like that's that stuff that gives it that Hollywood feel. It's just like with a camera, you don't have to have a track dolly, but man, when you have one, that shot definitely looks cinematic. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things I think that we can start to incorporate more of this stuff into the project we're doing here, regardless of the budgets and the levels, with higher end stunts, equipment, and also the effects, because now the effects are becoming so affordable now that you can start to really get high end polish in these movies, even when they don't have a Hollywood budget. So pretty excited about that.
There's something to be said too about practical elements. You know, I mean, even if I think the audience has gotten to the point where they can see it, they see the wire work, see some of that stuff. And so I like being able to mix some of that old school stunt work in with the technology. You know, it's kind of like what happened the Star Wars trilogy. They decided to not use all CGI this last go around. They wanted to use practical effects. I think that, you know, the most relevant, we're becoming so sophisticated as a viewer when we're watching these films and TV shows, because we just spent 2 years in our living room watching TV, watching Netflix, watching all this stuff. And we're getting to a point where we can, our mind can see through the illusion a little bit. If you go back and you look at Jurassic Park in '95, and I remember when I saw it the first time, I was like, wow. And if I go look at it now, I can see the edges. I can see my eye has become sophisticated over the years. And
but it's also because we're seeing a lot more of it.
That's right.
Jurassic Park would have been, oh my God, when it comes out. But now, like every other day, there's some other project that's got high effects. Yeah.
And you know, and some effects are better than others. And I'm a big fan of the practical, of mixing the practical effects. You know, bring in an air ram, have somebody ride an air ram, and then, you know, save the wire work for, you know, that's more expensive than an air ram, but make sure you got an experienced guy on the ride. You know, of course. Nowadays, there's a lot of stuntmen that don't know how to ride an air ram, you know, that they haven't had that experience because it's all been wire work. So I think there are some things that we don't want to lose. The high falls, being able to teach, you know, 20, 30 foot high falls, make sure that people still know how to, the techniques, so that on these indie films, we can do that stuff without ratcheting that budget up, you know, and get good production value.
Just in case the audience doesn't know what we're talking about, I was going to say an air ramp is what launches you through the air like an explosion, and without using wires. And people wonder, why would I use an air ramp? Well, if you're in the desert, we can use a battery. We can run the air ramp with no electricity. We can use a car battery, and we can launch somebody 15, 20 feet in the air onto pads with no wire work. And it's like you said, it's a lot cheaper. But if the stunt performer, like my guys, we train it all the time, so they're ready to do it. But if you don't train on the air ramp and you don't lean forward enough, it's gonna buckle your knees. You're gonna fall on your back. It's very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. But like you said, it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, the same, Mark Anthony, I think the same on pyro, right? You could do CGI explosions, but you know, they take weeks to render. It's expensive, and those guys who know how to work computers, you know, they charge a lot more than we do. You know, we could blow up a car 15 times before lunch, and you just, you know, the editor can just take their best pick, versus trying to render that out for weeks. And if they don't like it, then they're back to the render farm for weeks more.
And still save them money.
But you know, even the VFX guys that I know, every one of them, whenever we're talking about doing something like that, they're still asking for you to blend in as much practical, like you were talking about, Christian, blending as much practical as you can on set, because that sells the VFX. So even when you are going VFX heavy, you still want to be thinking through how much of this can I practically do on set safely.
Yeah. Also, I think that, you know, as we gain more knowledge about the editing side, it takes a lot of pressure off the practical side, because we used to think in terms of, you know, a stunt sequence, you know, he's got to, you know, hit the roof, roll over, hit the floor, roll, blow up, run on fire, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? I mean, when you realize that you have 2 weeks to catch each little bit of that, then you can break it up into little parts that can all be done safely. And you use editing as your illusion tool to make it look like something happened that, you know, that never really happened.
That's correct. Editing can be the stunt man's best friend, the stunt coordinator's best friend. I can't tell you how many little indie bits that I've been on, and they're racking their head around how they're going to do a certain sequence, and I'm like, just do it in the edit. You know, we can bleed it together and just cut it. And as a coordinator, I find myself sometimes explaining to the director how to edit it to get exactly what they want without having to, you know, to break the bank or bring in some of the unnecessary stuff. Of course, some people just want straight production value, you know, but when you're after a certain shot, if you got that kind of money, great. I won't talk you out of it. But if you're really trying to get some, I'm a storyteller first and foremost. So as a stunt coordinator, as an actor, as a whatever it is that I do, I'm telling stories, and violence is a means to tell a story. In one of my my articles that I wrote for Screen Radar, I talked about the battle between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. How Darth Vader could have just destroyed Luke Skywalker, but it wasn't about breaking him physically; it was about breaking him, you know, spiritually. And so he didn't unleash his full strength. Whereas in the battle against Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn, it was brutal, and it was a fight to the finish, to the death. And you can tell by the action involved in those scenes the story that they were trying to tell. And that's, for me, storytelling is what it's all about. I'm a storyteller first.
And do you guys, I know this happens to me pretty relatively often. I'll get hired to do like fight choreography or work out a sequence or something for somebody, and get on set, and there isn't really a good shot list. And sometimes I've even given them a previs. Like I often do previses so people can see what I'm thinking they should do with the sequence I put together. And then they don't have that, or they don't use it. And I end up doing a lot of second unit direction, which was not the plan, but is what happens. Or like I'm on a film and I'm acting in it, and I've got an action sequence, and they can't get the strike to connect, right? And I'm like, yeah, the camera can't be there. The camera needs to be over here to stack the shot. And I'm like, it's so weird to me because, you know, we do this all the time, right? So that isn't something you have to think about. But other people, even when they're great cinematographers or whatever, they don't always know how to direct an action sequence. And I was just curious if everybody have you had a lot of those experiences as well?
every time I'm on a set, I'm usually right next to the camera or the director when there's a sequence. One, I want to make sure everything's, safe, but I'm also, that sequence reflects me. So I am looking to make sure that I can give the director and the DP the best shot to get the action, because when it comes to the action, I'm the expert. And I'm not going to tell them how to light the thing because my DP, that's his job. But I am going to offer suggestions on the action. But there are many times that I've created something and I go down and it's completely changed on the day, completely changed. And that happens on big budget, that happens on little budget. It's a collaboration, so I have to take into account that my vision isn't necessarily the director's vision. And at the end of the day, I am party to the story that the director is telling. So I want to give him what he wants, but I'm always going to try to give them, what I think is the best opportunities to capture that. And it happens all the time. It doesn't always my advice isn't always heeded, and that's cool. But as long as the safety stuff is heeded, I can live with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're talking about safety stuff, but I've been on some sets some really good sets where the director or DP, first AD, whatever, they'll ask me, what do you think? And I appreciate that because one, safety, of course, for people, but also the equipment and the rigging, I want to make sure that everybody's safe, the camera's safe, and I'll put my 2 cents in. But when they do that, when they ask you and they know that your job is this, that's great. But sometimes they don't always collaborate on everything. And that's when things get rough. And it's our job to, as a SAG, as a union, to call the union if they're not listening to you. Because I got to do that twice on 2 films and call SAG and say, look, I don't feel comfortable. They're not listening to me. Safety's an issue. If something happens, it's going to look bad on me. And they will step in and stop production. And you have to do that. You don't want to. But sometimes you have to, because at the end of the day, your name, your reputation. Look at Alec Baldwin right now. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to ever be in that position.
And it's your job as stunt coordinator. There are 2 people that can shut down the set, and one is the first AD, and the second is stunt coordinator. And it's funny because when I'm on a set as a coordinator, I don't assume that anybody else is going to be the safety guy. I take that. I'm that guy. I become that guy. Period. Even if it's redundancy is cool. When it comes to safety, if there's 5 of us that are doing the same thing, that's not going to hurt my feelings. But we talk about the thing that happened on Rust with the gun checks. Look, anytime I'm on a set and we're using guns, I will ask the AD to show the actor and show the crew. It'll come from me. It's not my job. I'll ask them to do it. That's exactly right. Steve's got it. That's exactly what we'll ask to do before any scene. Yes, the armorer is the individual that should be doing that, first AD, but I make sure that I can put my head to the pillow at night because I am making sure that my shows are safe.
Christine, I want to add to that the culture should really be not, that just 2 people can put up their hands and say no.
Everybody.
That anybody,
yes,
anybody who has a concern, because I've, as a private investigator, I've investigated, hundreds of injuries and fatalities. And one of the universal factors in virtually every case is that there are people that you interview who invariably say, I had a feeling something wasn't right. Something was going wrong, whatever. Like, I don't know, something just didn't feel right right? So these accidents are almost always preceded by somebody who had some, I don't want to call it a premonition, but some feeling, I'm going to say based on data that they were processing subconsciously, that things were going wrong. And so everybody has to have the right, without fear of reprisal, without fear of being minimized or disregarded, to put up their hand and say, hang on, I got a question. Just explain to me, how does this thing work?
Absolutely.
Something doesn't seem right to me. And that's got to be the culture on set.
I agree.
Across every department.
I have a motto that I was taught in my rookie year as a stunt guy. And someone said to me that through your career, remember this: if in doubt, don't. And I can't tell you, I will not be able to quantify how much harm that is saved because it didn't happen. You know, that when in doubt, don't. I've thrown my hand up at times, and I'm like, I know I'm going to get flack for this, but I don't feel right about it. And and I had to, because I had a doubt. And so when my doubts cleared up, I'll continue forward. But the last thing I want to do is to move forward when I have doubts. If someone gets hurt, man, I don't want to carry that weight. I want to make sure that everybody is safe. And if I am not 100% certain, then that means I'm not 100% certain. And so we need to take a look.
Right. And then you have to be able to evaluate what other people tell you, whether it's coming from fear or whether it's coming from something founded. But at least you take the time to look at it. And there's some people who might look at a stunt and never feel that it's going to be safe.
Right.
And it's just because they lack the experience to know.
Right.
It just looks dangerous. Well, yes, it's supposed to look dangerous, but it doesn't mean that it is dangerous.
Right.
I've had ADs where I'm the coordinator do that, and it wasn't even something that was incredibly high risk, I guess. In my opinion, it's not a very high risk stunt, but it was something the actress who was the producer wanted to do. And the AD was like, no. And I was like, we rehearsed it. We had already rehearsed it. That was the funny part. We had already rehearsed it, went to the gym, ran it. They did it flawlessly. And the AD still felt uncomfortable about it. And so since the AD had that rank, they went with the AD, and I was just like, it's your movie, boss. All right, whatever you say.
Yep.
So I was gonna, do you mind if I chime in here a little bit?
Actually, I was just about to chime in myself to announce we could start the Q&A period. First, I do want to bring people's attention to the chat where Steve put his link in for Pyro Nemesis, which is that really amazing breakthrough way to put wildfires out. And I also want to welcome all the people who came in while our speakers were talking. Speakers, are you ready to take some audience questions? All right, I would like to ask the audience members, while it isn't your turn to ask a question, if you could mute, make sure to mute yourself. Just unmute to ask your questions, just so we don't end up with a lot of background noise and too many people accidentally talking over one another. So I think that's it. Let the questions begin. And Karen, you're first.
Thanks. Thank you, Judith. So I think you guys are it's great that you were talking about how being on set and feeling comfortable with what's happening on set is really important. And I remember the first time I did, I was in a series and with Gugu Michaels, and we did they were shooting at me as I was running by, right? And I never had that experience before. So to have them all shooting at me, at first I was thinking, okay, like not a big deal, because he says these are all blanks and everything. But then he really explained to me really well about what was going to happen, how it was going to sound, how it would make me feel. So then when it did happen, I wasn't shocked about what was going to happen. And I knew kind of, the layout a little bit better. And I felt more comfortable and safe because I knew he had his hand in everything and was, sure it was safe. But I guess I was curious. I didn't know at the time either, of course, obviously, about blanks and how all that works. And now I know a little bit about it because I've read about what happened on set. But and how the bullets, I guess, are. And I guess my question would be, as an actress, how are you responsible for that type of thing? So if you are being entrusted with a gun, which I have been before as well, saying that there's blanks in it, are you responsible to be checking that gun, making sure there's blanks in it, making sure that, you're protecting everyone else as well?
Yes.
Yes. Because because at the end of the day, those are all that's chain of custody, right? And so you're the last person that actually has it in your hand. And you may not know anything about weapons. So, I mean, you may not know what you're looking for, but before you get that gun, the last thing that you should ask to do is to have the armorer who hands you that gun to, you know, to open it up, take a look at it, make sure that you're looking at blanks, make sure that the barrel is clear with a light check is one of the ways that they do it. That is absolutely within your realm, and it's something that I would do anyway. I do that anytime someone hands me a gun on set. I always ask to have it checked as right before I get it. I want to make sure I know what I'm getting in my hand as an actor or a stunt guy.
Even a fake gun. So we use a lot of prop guns, and even fake guns, we treat it like a real gun. So if we give you whatever, then if it opens up like a real gun, as you can tell, it's not a real gun. Every time we use it, we treat every gun like it's a real gun, like it's loaded all the time.
There is no fake gun on any of my sets. They're all real, whether they're fake or not, because you have to treat them like that. Someone could slide a real gun in accidentally, completely by accident. Right. And some of those look so real, you wouldn't know. And so it could be an accident, but
Chris,
to prevent that.
You're right. Which one is the real gun and which one's the prop gun?
Right. I've used a real gun or fake gun on set.
This one is a real gun and this one is a prop gun. So anyone who's going to tell me, oh, the movie's not going to look good with this gun, you need to look that gun, they're full of crap. These things look the same, but one can take live ammo and one can't.
Yeah, Christian is right though. You should check the gun right before you shoot it. Like before you pull that trigger, because you're the one that has to live with that. And you never point the gun directly at somebody. You can a camera angle it. Like if I'm shooting towards Christian like this, I might shoot over here and angle it, right by him. I should never point the gun directly at him, ever.
Always cheat it. And never use the word just in connection with a blank, because people have been killed with blanks. John Hexum, shot himself in the head, and just the pressure of the expanding gases pushed a section of his brain, of his skull, through his brain and killed him. So, if it's got gunpowder, it's got an explosive in it, it's deadly. Regardless of whether it has a projectile at the end.
I've been on a set with a blowback pistol, and it wasn't I don't think it was my set. And a guy who should know better luckily it was blowbacks, so there's CO2 in the gun, but there's no bullets or pellets, right? And he was playing around with the gun, and one of the guys turned and he fired the CO2 pistol at almost point blank range at somebody else. Now, thank God there's no pellets or nothing in that gun that he fired. But like, had there been anything in that, and you put it right here, like those things will enter. I have a BB pellet in my calf muscle right now, because I had a friend who thought it would be funny when we were 12 years old to shoot me with his CO2 pistol, and he did it at point blank range. And there's a little ball in my calf muscle right now to this day. So, like, even when you're dealing with prop guns, you don't want to point them at people. Now, I know that stuff does occasionally happen, but especially like if you have 15, 20, 30 people in a shootout and people are running around, individuals are sometimes gonna do that. And that's where all the stuff you did beforehand has to be clear. For instance, there should never be live ammunition on a set. Like stuff like that is stuff that should happen way before, to make sure that there isn't some kind of a tragedy. Thankfully, I have not been on a set that's ever had any major injury like that, but most people are really good about it, and most people are either scared of guns, so they're super careful, or they're knowledgeable about guns, and so they don't want to wave it around and flag anybody. And I was on a set where I wasn't the stunt coordinator. This goes to what you were saying, Christian, and everyone being responsible on set. I was on a set where I walked on and somebody had a shotgun. I had prop guns, right? Some of them don't even have CO2 in them, right? Just to be super safe. Somebody walked on and one of the prop guys brought a real shotgun, but there was no stunt coordinator. So who do you think took control of that shotgun and left it open, and so everyone could see it was clear 24/7, and when the actor wasn't using it, took the gun from him? It wasn't my job, but in this current climate, like, I'm sure everyone was far more comfortable because somebody was taking charge. And a lot of times, if you're the safest person on the set, that's just going to have to be you.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it's about you know, deciding to be the grown-up. Oop, I lost. Wait, Christian, do you have audio? I'm not hearing anything.
Well, I'm also wondering if anyone else in the audience would like to step up with a question. Please don't be shy.
Christian, what's your favorite color? I'm just kidding.
I would like to ask a question.
Christian, you're muted, by the way.
Can you hear me? Can you
We
hear me?
hear you, Gary. Go ahead.
Okay, I assume that when you're doing a big street scene with explosions, you can shoot from 3 or 4 cameras, no problem. I wonder if you're doing a tight scene with stunts or guns or fights, do you ever use multi-camera shoots? Or is it just one camera and keep doing it over?
Oh,
Multi-camera.
Oh, you do use multi-camera shoots.
Multi.
Makes sense. I was just,
And then you can use plexiglass too, like but for certain camera close-ups or angles, definitely use plexiglass. Yeah.
in front of the camera
Yes.
to protect yourself or the
You
camera.
protect the camera and the person behind it, which there shouldn't be nobody
Camera,
behind it.
yeah.
Yeah, depending on what you're shooting, but there shouldn't be nobody behind it though. So
But a lot of multi-camera shots in those events
right.
Yeah.
for continuity and so forth. Okay, thank you,
Well,
guys.
especially if you're doing some big stunt and you may only have enough explosives for one go or 2 goes. Now that's not ideal, but it does happen. I've seen it on sets where they don't have enough, powder to do 15 takes, or they don't have enough time. And so that one take is going to have multiple angles on it. And even when we do like street fights and stuff like that, if we have a primary camera, the secondary camera and the primary guy know the fight choreography, so they know where they can be and where kind of what the shot list is. And I'll tell, like, if it's Edwin Quiones, which is one of my main secondary camera guys, if I got the primary, I'm like, give me something interesting. Get out of my way and move with me. Give me a cutaway. Give me something just in case. We got 2 cameras and it's digital. This is not the time of film. I don't have to be precious with my footage. I have, really large SD cards. Let's get some footage here.
Right.
Yeah, the more coverage you get, the better. Can you guys hear me now? I know I had some issues
Yeah.
before.
Yes.
Coverage is key.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? Come on now. Don't not ask.
Rose, go
I have a
ahead.
question. Am I muted?
Let's go. Nope.
Very
No,
good.
we hear you. Go for it.
So I know with in regard to working with Christian and Marc that I always describe them as both being very much glass half full. No matter what it is, they can tackle it. They can make it happen. Just always on the up and up. You guys, what is the most common trait that you notice amongst all stunt performers, stuntmen, stunt women? What do you see?
The good ones, it's a willingness to learn.
The good and the bad, right?
I think that you differentiate the good ones and the bad ones in a willingness to listen and to learn. Really, I think it boils down to that, because you're dealing with stuff that you gotta know when to step up, and you gotta know when to step back too. You can't be in charge all the time. Even as a stunt coordinator, there are things that I don't do well as others, and I will bring in the best to do that. And then I will step back and let them do their job, and they make me look great every time, because they're experts at what they do. And I think that ability to listen to each other and talk things through, I really think that is key to a successful stunt team, and you really want to have a good team around you.
Yeah, I like to add to that by saying I worked in a lot of movies, bigger budget films, where when I first started becoming a stunt performer, that the ego system was huge. And when we go on a set, I tell my guys to have set etiquette. You're not better than anybody. We're all the same. When we're on set, we take care of business, but we help other people. Right. We show respect, discipline. We don't lose our cool. We help people out. We go the extra mile, and we're always the last ones to leave, because we make sure that there's always somebody with a flat tire. There's always somebody with left their gear. They need help getting their gear set up or put away. We won't touch somebody's expensive equipment unless we ask them. But we never leave people. We're like it's like soldiers. We never leave nobody behind. We wait until everybody's gone. We're always the last one to leave. And it's all about etiquette, having that the right attitude. Yes sir, no sir. I know some people go on set. There's all this cussing going on. We don't get into that. We just we stay humble. We work hard, and we get the next gig because we treat people right.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that. Etiquette.
Yeah, I wrote a chapter on etiquette, and I'll email it to anybody who wants it.
I'd love to read that. I would like to see that written down. I'd like to see that in one place because, you know, yeah, us old guys, we've heard you hear it from 20 different directions. I like to have it in one place, by God. I'd love to have that, Steve.
It just means
it
means that you're as polite in the 14th hour as you are in the first 10 minutes.
That's correct.
And that it's always yes sir, no sir, flying it in sir.
Yes, that's
you know,
correct.
just maintaining a professional demeanor.
I love
my guys
the 14th hour. It's my favorite.
I tell my guys that when they go on set, like my first guys that come on the first time, I'm like, this is your interview.
Yeah.
And you treat it like an interview because your best foot's forward. You do your best, you work hard. And then the next time they come on, it's like, this is their second interview, and the third interview, and the fourth, and then it's their 50th interview. They're like, when I stop interviewing? I go, you never stop interviewing.
That's fact.
You can't get too comfortable. You can't get too comfortable on a set. It's always professionalism. You can have a good time on the days to have a good time, but still just remember you're still a performer.
Well, and listen, I just walked on a set on Monday with Charlie Crawwell, who's a, you know, famous stunt coordinator. That's the first time I ever worked for him. Yeah. And look, I'm the new guy. I've been doing this 25 years, but to Charlie, I'm the new guy. So it starts over every single time. So, you know, I want to do a good job. It was yes, sir, no, sir, move that pad, sir, whatever. And I'm the oldest cat on set. And everybody's like going, look at that dude go. I'm like, that's how I still am here today.
Right.
And this is a volunteer army. I mean, even this right here, like if I got on here and started getting ridiculous and swearing up a storm and being rude, like you think Christian will call me? I might call you a name. You know, exactly, right? Like, and here's the thing, like I don't work with people I don't like typically. Like I don't have to. There's enough work out here where you don't have to do that in film. And so if that's the case, your character comes through and it matters. One of the things for me, like when you're talking about like elements into a good stunt person, I like positivity is necessary. We're doing dangerous things, right? So you have to be solution oriented, and I don't want to hear like we can't do that. Like, hey, let's talk about some ways and maybe we can do that. Safety oriented, because you don't do it one time, you do it 15, 20 times. So with a lot of athletic guys, they'll get in, like even myself. Oh yeah, I can do that particular backflip. Well, I'm not going to do it once. Then you hit the camera, and the direction was wrong, and then this was wrong. I'm tired by take 15. So like, you know, like I tell people, like when they're asking you, can you do something, you know, exotic? How many times can you do that back to back? Because you're going to do it 15 or 20 times. Honesty. What can, as Christian said, what can you not do? Like right now, you call, because I remember you asked me something about the horse stuff. That's why it's kind of funny. I just got a call to do something for horses, but it's in April. So I got a lot of time. I'm okay on horses, but the stuff they want is probably going to be a bit advanced. But the guy who calls me knows this. But what will normally happen, you'll call a stunt guy and say, hey man, can you gallop a horse, you know, through the desert, you know, the nighttime, whatever. And they're gonna be like, yeah. It's like, no, if you don't know how to do that, you're endangering yourself.
And your career.
And everyone around you, like just be honest, you know, just tell us what's happening.
Yeah, call David Alvarado. He's a great horse stunt guy out of San Antonio.
I just saw a question down below.
Joey.
Is that Tootie?
Yeah, Tootie, why don't you unmute and ask your question?
I'll go ahead because I have one thing I've already learned is that there's probably a difference between stunt coordinator and stunt person. And my question pertains to pre-production planning. So I'm presuming that's a question for the stunt coordinator.
That's correct, yes.
Because I'm presuming they're the ones that's working with director and so forth, to plan what's going to happen versus plan to do it.
Right.
So in production planning, would you be given like a list, a shot list or something that says, okay, on these 5 pages, there's stunts, and then over here, there's another stunt? Or would you have the opportunity to look through the entire script and you assess where it's appropriate to do certain kind of stunt jobs?
The latter.
And for example, would you be looking at the contribution the stunts make to the story itself? For example, if the script called for a person to be shot with a shotgun, and it was maybe at a range or a distance, that would be better to use a rifle. Are those the kind of changes to the use of action that you might have an opportunity to suggest to whether it be the writer, the director, whoever that might be? And would you rather read the whole script and do that kind of analysis for yourself rather than being given a list of things? Here's the things we want you to do.
Kathy, I have a trick that I use when I'm reading scripts, and that's I read the script from the back to the front. And that keeps me from getting lost in the story at all, because I can't figure out the story that way.
It's like drawing on the right side of the brain where you put the picture upside down and then draw it only one line at a time.
Yeah. I delete all the dialogue and start at the back page, and I only read the scene description of what's happening.
Yeah.
And then I make a spreadsheet of everything where I think, a physical, mechanical, or stunt, is called for. Because a lot of times the people in production, they don't realize, that a beer spilling underneath the doorway, that requires a special effects rig if you want to control the rate of the spill, etc. Or, someone's waiting for an elevator and they see the dial moving, well, we better make that dial so it can be reset, as needed. So there's a lot of things that are stunts or effects that people in production wouldn't realize, unless it's in their department.
Well, and since you mentioned elevator, that brings up Grandma's House, the movie.
Yes.
I had the honor of working with Steve in, but they unexpectedly found that there was an elevator in the house we were shooting in, whereas my character was supposed to have a wardrobe fall on me, and they decided to use the elevator instead. And I remember, Steve, I think you actually repaired the elevator for us so it would work.
Wow.
But that kind of thing, I imagine this. You also run up changes that occur on set that you have to address that you hadn't planned for. And does that happen very often? And yeah, I see a lot of
Constantly.
I see Christian over there just nodding. Yeah. And now Benjamin's laughing.
And it's not, and sometimes it's happy opportunities, happy surprises that come along. Hey, we were going to do the fall off this building. Oh, well, look, there's a cliff right next to us. Let's use the cliff. Makes a better movie.
So it's both, but it's the stunt coordinator who is making those changes and decisions, not the stunt person who's performing it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Normally,
always
yes.
the coordinator. Yes, in normal circumstances, and and I think everybody probably has a different process. I have my process for breaking down scripts for movies is I do prefer to get the script, and I prefer to go through it from top to bottom and make one-liners because Steve mentioned sometimes they don't realize there's a stunt. It's an actual
That's what
stunt.
I was thinking.
And so I will bring that to their attention because for their budget, they need to know that that's a stunt day. I need a stunt double. If you're going to fall on the ice, you don't want an actor falling on the ice. You want a stunt person falling on the ice, or at least a stunt person there as an option. And there is a stunt bump involved with that. And so you want to make sure that, when I break down a script originally, sometimes they'll send me a script to break down and I won't end up coordinating it. I end up helping the producer create the stunt budget. 9 out of 10 times I'll get that the coordination gig. Sometimes I'm busy and I can't. And so, somebody else will pick it up or whatnot. But I usually have a large hand in saying what is and what isn't a stunt. Sometimes I'll look at it and, the director doesn't even know how he's going to shoot the scene necessarily. Not yet. He doesn't know how he's going to do it. So I will throw out suggestions. You can do it in edit. We can do it this way. We can do it that way. Sometimes, knowing the story, if I know that that this is in the Civil War, and there's a certain weapon in the Civil War that works better than the weapon that they're talking about. I will advance the storytelling from a historical aspect if I have that knowledge. I will make suggestions, but they're simply suggestions, and I expect them to take that with a grain of salt. And sometimes they'll follow my suggestions, and sometimes they don't. But it's a collaborative effort, and that's why I don't get what's the term? I don't get too butthurt when someone decides to do something that I didn't suggest, because at the end of the day, we've all got our names on it. And again, as long as the safety comes first, I have no issue with the collaboration.
I will say that from my side, it goes a number of different ways. So sometimes someone will call me and they'll have a specific sequence that they need help with. So I'll get that part. Like, hey, we're doing X, Y, Z. We need help with this one part. We need you for one day. Can you come help me with this? Then I might they might tell me exactly what it is, or they might send me something so I can kind of go with it. Now, if I'm doing stunts for the entire project, I'm more like Christian, because this, for instance, like since I do so much fight choreography as well, the fight has to tell a story. So, for instance, if I'm doing a fight scene and it's going to be a brawl in a house, and it's somebody's dad versus an assailant, like a robber, that fight looks a certain way. It doesn't matter what the dad knows. If he goes to jiu-jitsu once a week, that fight looks a certain way, even if he has a certain amount of skill sets. If that's an ex-Marine, that fight looks a different way. Yeah, if that's a criminal, if some assailant or some random robber accidentally broke into the house of a made guy, or somebody like that, that's a different kind of fight. It might have different type of tools or maybe different things I want to do in that house. And I have to know, if I'm building a fight like that, well, what kind of a guy is that? What kind of who is this woman who's in this fight? Is she a stay-at-home mom? Is she an MMA fighter? Like, is she doing Tai Chi, or is she doing, MMA, KC, and Muay Thai? Like, all those things are going to be part of how I tell the story in that that nonverbal story with the combat. So I'm more on Christian's side in the sense that, like, depending on what exactly I'm having to do, I do need to know who the characters are for the actions I'm telling you to make sense. So, like, I worked this weekend, 2 weekends ago, on a South Indian action movie. Well, the guy's running through a junkyard with shotguns and pistols and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, is he Jason Bourne? Is he John Wick? Like, which guy is he?
Yeah,
will determine how he moves through the space dispatching enemies. So, yeah.
And I'll give you an example, Kathy, of how using all these guys, I would break down a script for a movie. I would get the script, I would break it down. I see that there's a particular, the ending is this huge martial arts MMA brawl. I would call up Ben, and Ben, send him these pages, and I'd go, take a look at this, give me your thoughts. And then I know that I'm going to have a sequence where I'm going to have to have a car chase. I'm going to call Marc up. I'm going to look, okay, listen, so this is what's going on in this car chase. Marc, is there anything you see specific that I need to be aware of? And then if we're doing something that, maybe has never been done before, or they don't have the budget to do it one way, I'll call up Steve, and I'm like, look, man, we've got some development here, and I want to just kind of nudge your brain and figure out if there's a way that we can do this, that, we're creating a brand new method. This is something that I would do based on what the script, what it opens up. I use the whole community to create a show. And then that way we're all working together. We're all getting paid. We're getting our insurance. We're taking care of each other, and we have a great project, and we build that network. We build that team. And that's how you stay successful. You keep your team together. Anybody that's ever won a Super Bowl knows you got to keep your team together.
Keep the team fed. But one thing you said, Kathy, that was important, and I don't want to skip that. You said, do you sometimes get the shot list? I almost never get a shot list, right? Often I'm providing them with what I think works, and then their DP does whatever he wants. But I do ask what kind of camera movements we're going to do. Mm-hmm. So Jason Bourne looks different than Crouching Tiger, and the choreography isn't the same. If I know you're going to do
the style of the scenes are
Yeah,
different.
if you're doing top-down drone shots, well, I have to do big looping punches where people are slipping underneath to use
Right.
that, and the spacing has to be different because depending on where the camera is, it changes some stuff because they don't always change the camera move for the fight. Sometimes I adjust the fight for what the camera wants to do. Is it a one take? Okay, we might have to put a tussle in the middle to reposition the actors in this one place. They wrestle for a bit, take some body shots, shove off and reset. So these are things that things that can affect the way you build a fight for a stunt sequence.
It's not called choreography for no reason. It's literally choreography. We're choreographing a sequence. It's a dance, a violent dance, but it's a dance for the camera that we are trying to sell this violence. It's an amazing thing when you break it down and you look at it. Choreography is the exact right word for it.
And a lot of
Now I
times,
have another
just to add-
question. Oh, Mark, go ahead.
Oh, I was
Mark,
gonna say
go
really
ahead.
quick. As a stunt coordinator, usually I would bring in one of my guys to help do the fight choreography. I was a fight choreographer for 20 years before I started doing stunt coordinating, and so I would oftentimes if I'm coordinating the film and there's a lot of fight scenes, I'll bring in one of my black belts or one of my guys who are really good at putting together some fight scenes, and I'll check out the fight scenes and then add to them or take away a little bit. So they'll help me out because I don't have time to do all of it. So I got to do everything else. But like Christian, I like to read the whole entire script. I'll highlight the certain things I need to know that they need to know. And then, like you said, also create the budget for them because what happens a lot of times, we can't afford to do that. Then we start cutting down we don't need an armor because we can't afford that. So we always make sure that they know what
and
the
then they
budget
can get rid of the stunt medic too, right?
You're right.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to tell them when to bring an ambulance, like we got to make sure we got an ambulance on set on certain days. Like, oh, we didn't think about that. Well, we need an ambulance. Hopefully we'll never use it, but it's money well spent. Those are the kinds of things that sometimes you have to look at,
May I have another question?
If you wouldn't mind, we have at least one person who also has a
certainly.
question.
Yes.
It's okay. I just want to make sure Tootie gets her chance. And also just want to remind Kendra, Chanel, David, let's see,
Erica.
Anyone who hasn't asked a question yet. Erica, there, yes. All right. I've seen photos of you on Facebook, plenty.
I see a hand up.
The other Reddic. But
That's
yeah, I want to
half.
make sure Tootie gets, I'm sorry, want to make sure Tootie gets her chance to ask her question. And if anybody else has a question, if you could say so in the chat, so we have an idea of who's got what questions, that would be very helpful. Tootie, unmute. Let's hear your question.
Okay, so my question was, would taking stunt classes assist in the career of an actor if they wanted to book more roles? And if so, do any of you guys do those beginner stunt classes?
Yes.
I think probably yes all the way around. I want to be careful about, actors that if they take one class does not make them a stunt person. So that's one thing I just want to make sure, because I know a lot of actors that they'll take the class and then they'll start billing themselves a stunt person. Not yet. It takes time. It really takes time. Really, I didn't consider myself a stunt person until after I'd been doing it for 2 years, day in and day out. Training, I believe every actor, particularly an actor that is involved in action films, should know a couple of things. They should know how to throw a punch. They should know how to take a fall. They should know how to blend with their stunt double, because let the stunt double do the crazy stuff, but they need the actor in there to be able to create the foundation of the scene. You got to see the actor's face, and you want to be able to look good while you're doing it. Sure, you can have the best MMA stunt double in the world double you, but when your face is in it, you want it to be believable. You don't want them to know that that's your double. You want to be able to seamlessly gel into that. So I think every actor should know a thing or two about fighting, falling, sword work, how weapons work, safety. I think every actor should know the safety on all this stuff. Do they need to be doing fire burns? No. Do they need to be doing high falls? No. Then, because at that point you're working towards being a stunt person, and which I do both. So if you have an inclination and that is a desire, by all means, but know that that is a career choice. And when you choose it as a career, that is training.
I agree. Just because you jump on an airbag one time or twice doesn't mean you can do it for film. A lot of guys train with me. I've had over 10 courses at the place, and I do level 1, level 2, level 3. I do precision driving. So people come out to me, and I'll teach 10, 15 people who are actors or people who want to get into stunts. And okay, this is what I do. I'll put them through some basic level high falls. We'll do some jerk pulls. I'll put them on the ratchet, just to get into experience. And if they can handle all that, everything we do for the course, like there's 10 different things we do, then they'll decide if they want to take this seriously. Because if they can't do this, the entry level with all these stunt equipment I'm doing, the basic stuff, then they're not going to make it in the stunt industry. So, but they got a reel out of it. They got some footage out of it. That was cool. Then when they come to level 2, we take it up a notch. Level 3, take it up a notch. But they got to be consistent. You can't just come to level 2. You got to you got to be invited. So level 1, anybody can take it. But
yeah, and Marc Anthony is really well set up and really experienced to teach this. But to answer the question, will it make you more marketable as an actor? No, because taking a few classes doesn't make you a stunt person. Well,
right.
In terms of marketability, what the producer is thinking is like, oh, if this person has some stunt background, then maybe I can trim a few bucks and not have to hire the stunt people. They still have to hire the stunt person. So it doesn't make you more marketable. What it does do though, is it makes you a better actor because you have a better understanding of the physical dynamics that go into the role.
I want to answer that in a slightly different take, because it depends on what exactly you're talking about. So Christian, Steve, Marc Anthony travel a lot and are working in much bigger budgets, right? So if you're working in a market like Atlanta on a $20 million movie, yeah, you're gonna have a stunt double. If you're doing something that's sub $1 million, then yes, having the ability to throw some basic punches and kicks and maybe hit the ground without really hurting yourself on something basic will be tremendously valuable on those sorts of projects. It depends on the budget range that you're working in, and it'll change dramatically. But if you're doing a Marvel movie, I mean, you're not going to be doing that fighting unless you have some kind of rank and you can make them let you do that. I do think it is useful to have the skill sets for general reasons, as Christian says, to blend. Because for instance, I can tell you when I watch you see this more so with female characters than male characters. If you walk into a room and you're standing like a model because you've been taught to stand and strut like a model, and then the fight starts and that person that has your double is an absolute Ronda Rousey monster, I will notice that is not the same person.
Yeah.
And it'll stick out because you don't know how to stand like a fighter. And the director's not going to be able to teach you that. And the stunt person's not going to teach you that. So these are things that I think are very useful. Marc teaches classes. I don't teach. I do workouts at Jungle Movement Academy in Round Rock, but we don't do classes. I don't teach classes like that. And occasionally we'll do some fight choreography just for fun, but I don't do structured classes. So I would say get with Marc if you want to do stunts and falls. And I think he does some hand-to-hand stuff as well. I've seen Jomer and you doing some hand-to-hand stuff and some weapons as well. If not that, probably a martial arts class. The only problem is that in film, you do so many different things that one class probably is going to teach you everything you want to know. Because normally you need some basic boxing, you need some basic Taekwondo or karate style kicks, maybe some one-hand sword stuff. So if you could do like seminars, those are probably the quickest way to do it. If you're going to take real martial arts, either go heavy in something you really enjoy for fitness reasons, or you take a little Kali class here, a little Hemo over here, a saber course in this time to get good enough, or some stage combat courses offered by Society of American Fight Directors. They do some things as well. Those might make more sense for you than, being a black belt in Taekwondo in order to be a stunt actor or an action actress.
And if you play cops and soldiers, a tactical class is good because you want to know how to hold a gun. You want to look legitimate when you're clearing a room. I mean, these are things that I think absolutely help the actor in terms of believability. Yeah, I mean, how many
Yep.
times you see them holding the gun? You know, so remember, policemen and soldiers watch these movies too, and they'll be the first to recognize a fake, right? So you want to
Vicious.
you want to as an actor, you want to bring authenticity to your role. So therefore, do the background, do the work to inhabit the character.
Just so you know, I do teach all those things at our place, and I'm about to open up an indoor training facility. I used to own a chain of 8 martial arts studios at one time, but now I'm gonna open up a film, like a film fighting studio. So basically, I'm gonna teach these on a regular basis, and we're gonna open up one in Austin and one in San Antonio. So let me know if you're interested. Send me some information.
Tootie knows. Tootie knows. She goes, I see it all the time.
Thank
Speaking of,
you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kendra has a question. Kendra, would you like to unmute and speak away your question?
Oh, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Hi, Kendra.
Sorry, you can hear me?
Yes.
I'm on my phone, so okay, good. Okay. All right. So yeah, I came up with a question as I was writing that I didn't have a question. I'm a writer, and when I'm writing action scenes, if I write a fight scene or something that needs choreography, I usually don't write a bunch of detail. I'm curious to hear from your perspective, should I research more by going to a fight class or choreographing, or do you prefer to choreograph those details in yourself?
I would tell you to tell your story. And
I was going to say the same thing,
yeah.
Christian.
Tell
You focus
your
on
story.
telling the story.
Yeah, if you tell the story, I'm going to pick up what you're putting down, and I'll be able to translate that into the action. Now, if there's some specific things that you need to happen in your tale, like you talk about like the fight at the end of Roadhouse where our hero punches out and rips out the bad guy's throat. I mean, those I want to know the things that dramatically tell your story, because I'll find a way to incorporate that. But doing a play-by-play doesn't really do your story very well, because we'll be able to infer and figure it out, and then the director's going to have his input, and everybody's going to have their input. At the end of the day, you tell your story, and we'll collaboratively come to the place to make it happen.
You
All
can
right,
save
thank
yourself
you.
a lot of writing just by saying, Tony kicks the crap out of Anthony, and then Christian and Ben will figure out, and Marc, Anthony, they'll figure out how to do that.
And if you're like me when it comes to writing, I have a hard time saying I say too much as it is. So that just helps my word count. Barry knows.
Yep.
Anyone else want to address that question?
I think everybody kind of agrees. Like, what I would say is you do what you want to do. If you get excited about writing a fight scene, I have had that happen. I've had someone bring a comic book to me, and they had a sequence that they kind of wanted me to adapt. And I mean, I wasn't offended by it, but if I thought it sucked, I'd have told them, no, let's not do that because it's not good. so I mean, I don't think it hurts. It's just probably a waste of your time, unless you're really good, unless you're really adamant about doing it a certain way and just want one of us to make it safe. But more than likely, you don't want to waste time doing that.
And I mean, and if you're an expert in a field, say
Right.
say you're a Navy SEAL and you're talking about the attack on the Bin Laden compound, and there's certain things that happen to add to the realism of the scene. Absolutely, in that presence, in that case, I would say write it the way it's technically supposed to happen. You're the expert. You know more than I do in that regards. I want that information. But if it's a generalization, a general fight sequence, I just need to know the results. I need to know the motivations, and we'll figure out how to make it work.
One thing I want to add to that is that location too. So like for instance, this weekend I'm going to Panama City, and I'm looking at this office they're using as a police station, and the 2 actresses are going to be fighting in a small cubicle area. Now I seen pictures, and I'm like, okay, we can do some close quarter combat. It's fine. He wants to put her head through a mirror, and we make props. So I'm like, well, if you put her head through like a picture frame instead, it's a lot easier to make, and we can make that for you. And so I'm heading up there this weekend to Panama City to look at the location, because then I have a good idea of what I'm working with, space-wise, what's around. I mean, we don't want to destroy nothing, so that also helps too. Location, is it outside? I mean, the foundation.
And
So.
Mark, and this is something, I mean, all you guys have run into, I'm sure. Then you get on set, and then your set designers come in and put all this crazy stuff, and you're like, what's this doing here? And there's all these things that you can use, or are there practical things that you can't use? And you need to figure out how to, if you're fighting and there's a machete on the wall, well, why wouldn't you take the machete and use it? I mean, so there's things that you have to account for when you get in there to take a look around, like, we can't have that there. Why? Because why wouldn't you use the machete, right?
On the fly, yeah. On the fly, you got to make these choices really fast. Yep.
Yeah.
So Erica has her hand
Yes.
up. Would you like to unmute?
Yes. Okay, so listening to you guys talk and knowing a little bit about the industry, I think a lot of people know it's famously pretty hard to break into the industry and get a foothold. And, but I've also heard people say, if you have a team that you trust, you stick with your team. So given that premise, how do you feel about nepotism now that you have established careers versus how you felt about it when you first got started?
Oh, and truth, it's funny because I've learned there's two ways into show business. You're either born into it or you're adopted into it, right? And I was adopted into it by a fellow by the name of David Morzo, who's a big time stunt coordinator. We did a bunch of live action stuff. So, I mean, I never had an issue with it because I literally was from the beginning. It was straight up a good friend of mine that pulled me up the ranks. And my feeling is that here's the way I pay that back is I reach down and I pull people up through the ranks. So I do create a team around me, but my team is successful. And so they're not always working for me. They're working for different people. And so I sometimes need that spot filled, and maybe I don't know that person. I'll ask my team, and my team will recommend somebody, and I trust my team. So if they vouch for somebody, I'm going to give them a shot. And so I'll reach down and I'll pull somebody up. It's their shot. I'm just a good old boy from East Texas, man. I love everybody. I want to give everybody a shot, And once they get on set, it really boils down to attitude. And I'll tell you one thing that I look for when I bring somebody on set, whether they're a 20-year veteran or if they're brand spanking new, if they come on set and they have that a good attitude, a teachable heart, I'll hire them every single time because they're, that's who I want to work with. But yeah, I know people that know it all that I can't, they're established stunt guys. I can't do what I need to do because we're in conflict, and I can't have that on my set. I know new guys that know it all, that they've done two things and they know everything.
Worst.
Yeah,
I think it's not really that it's nepotism. It's that we're trying to cover our asses and make sure nobody gets hurt.
Right.
So it's not that we're trying to avoid newcomers. It's that we're trying to go with what's proven. We're trying to go with three things. There's three things I look for when I'm working with someone. Someone I know, someone I like, someone I trust. Everything else can be taught.
Right.
And so if you're trying to get work, or you're trying to, you don't break into this circle, you climb into it. That's you walk into it, you crawl into it.
It's true.
But what your challenge is how do I get known? How do I get liked? And how do I get trusted? So if you wanted to, move into the stunt world or something, you'd call Marc Anthony or Ben or Christian, and you'd say, hey, I know I don't know the stuff that you need me to know, but I would like you to know me. And so I'm going to show up on Monday. I'm going to carry your stunt bags. I'm going to make your coffee. I'm going to do runs to 7-Eleven. I'm going to do whatever I can to be useful to you while you get to know me. And
right.
This is a process that, it's called apprenticeship. You show up and you say, I'm going to give you my time, and in exchange, I hope to absorb some of your knowledge and have an opportunity to make an impression on you. And if you make a good impression, you know, we all need more people. So if you make a good impression on people, and everyone likes you and everyone gets to know you and they trust you and they feel like, you know, you're even if you're a girl, you could still be a stand-up guy, right? Then then they're going to put you to work, and they're going to see, you know, some little stunt will come along, and it's probably something that the other guys in the team have done 20,000 times, and they're bored to death with it. And they say, hey, you know what? Let's have Erica give this a shot, and then then you'll get your moment of glory, and everyone will high five you, and the next day they'll give you a little more work. You have to be willing to work your way in and invest your time to build the relationship.
And you know, it's I met I was on a set in 1995. I was brand spanking new, green behind the ears, and I met Russell Towery, who's like one of the towers in stunt coordinating. And I asked him, you know, what do I do to work for you? And he was honest with me. He says, look, man, I won't hire you because I don't know you. I got guys that I do know. He goes, you're just going to have to pay your dues and do the time. And you know what? I ran into Russell 10 years later, and I said, hey, you were the first guy that was real with me about this business. And I will never forget that, you know, and that's exactly how it happens. You know, you just show up, you have a work ethic, you have a good attitude, and you be as safe as you possibly can. You know when to say no, know when to be quiet, know when to speak up, you know.
My story's a little bit different. My story's a little bit different. When I was in high school, back in, I was supposed to graduate high school in 89, but I graduated high school in 92. And 21 years old when I graduated high school. So, you know, I was special ed. So, you know, I kind of, fighting was my thing. I've been taking martial arts since I was 5 years old. And kickboxer 4. And I auditioned for Power Rangers. And so I auditioned for Power Rangers. And they asked me if I did some small stuff with them for like 2 days, but I couldn't afford to live there. It was too expensive. I was sleeping in my car, and I knew to do the film. So I started doing small projects with Walker Texas Ranger and a few other projects. And I just did it once in a while. So I went to LA, tried to break in there. And every time I went to an audition to do something, like, you know, meet the stunt coordinator, meet the stunt guys, sometimes they wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't talk to me. They would kind of like blow me off. And even some stunt coordinators. But then I met Jeff Wolf. He's up there in LA. And he started telling me, like Steve said, carry their buckets, move their mats. And I was kind of cocky and arrogant back then. I'm like, oh, I can carry nobody's mats. I'm not going to do that. I'm not I'm not that guy. Well, I became that guy. And I met this guy named Pete Porteous. And Pete took me underneath his wing. I call him Uncle Pete. This guy knows, he's been in the industry for 50 years. He's done stuff with Bundy, the guy that did the Dukes of Hazzard, the original jumps, Buzz Bundy. He's worked with all the original, like David Carradine. He's worked with all these people. This guy is like amazing. I call him Uncle Pete. He's become a good mentor of mine, a good friend of mine. James Fuentes. These guys are old school stunt guys, and I'm just a kid. So they took me underneath their wing. I would mop the floors at the place. I would go to the ranch. They had horses. They were Western guys mostly, but they did car stunts. They do everything. Guns, pyrotechnics. They did everything. These guys were like, they were awesome. So I started learning from them, and then they told me to go on and make my own way because they really couldn't help me a lot because I didn't want to live in LA. It was too expensive for me. So I left LA and I created my own thing. They said, go create something. You're good enough. You're still young enough. Go create it. So they gave me an opportunity. There was a stunt coordinator that did the Matrix and the X-Men movies. And I bought out all of this gear. And that's how I got the equipment I have. I bought out the ratchet, the descenders, I mean, everything. And then, you know, it's like $1 million worth of equipment. I bought it dirt cheap. And now I got my own business, a company. And now, since I've trained in this equipment, I know how to use it. So then I started putting a team together to help me run the equipment. And then I started training people. Like today, one of my guys drove up here to Florida. I had lunch with him a while ago, and he goes, "What can I do to stay busy?" I say, "Stay in my circle." I told him, I was like, "You coming up here to help me in Florida shows me that you care." You know, I broke down over here. My transmission blew on me, he brought me his car. I flew him to Austin right now today, so he can bring my truck to me and my other truck. So, and he's a team player. He helps out. He went to the ranch. He cleaned up that place really good for me. You know, I gave him some money for helping me out, but I appreciate it. He didn't ask for nothing. And I told him today, I was like, you know what? You're my guy. You showed me you're there for me. You've been there for me. You put your foot forward. I was like, I'm gonna get you on some gigs with me. And this guy has potential. He's really good. He's a little green, but he's reliable, respectful. He's got etiquette. He's been on some films with me before, but he's shown me that he's very passionate and he's humble, and I like that a lot. So if I can count on the people, they show up, they're willing to learn. I got guys and girls that are doing this for me. So now those are the people I pull. Like when I'm looking for a stunt gig, it's like I got 80 people on my roster. Well, I'm gonna pick the top 5 that I see every day or talk to on a regular basis, right? They're gonna feed first, and then I'll pick other people if I need them. But if they stay in my circle, stay in my radar, we're busy together, we're doing stuff together, we're like a family, then I'll keep them busy. They'll be working on films every day. So,
well, I know one thing. Benjamin is in trouble because he knows that I want to be a precision driver, a stunt driver. I didn't know there was somebody in Texas where I could take a class.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yep. I'll just say that I used to own an 84 Volkswagen Rabbit, and I lived on literally the worst dirt road in Vermont. And I used to drive it like a rally car, and it was super fun. And I thought maybe someday I might be a stunt driver, but alas.
It's not too late.
I mean, I'm saying. So Benjamin, you're gonna so how do people find out like when y'all's classes are? Do you guys all have websites where we can go see where you're at, what you're doing, how to get in touch?
Yes, well, I got one on Facebook that I'm really busy with. It's called Texas Hollywood Stunts and Film. Benjamin knows where it's at. He's on it. So I also have a website too, and we put classes on there. We have classes that come up on there, so you can sign up. Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna be a race car driver.
So real quick though,
silly.
Marc, you
Yes.
haven't quite started that up in Austin yet. You're just about to.
No, I'm in Austin. Yes, we've been there for 2 years almost.
Teaching classes.
Yes.
Uh-oh. I was trying to save you, Ben.
There's no saving.
Oh, there's no
you already
saving Ben
knew
now.
about him. It's whatever. I'm not whatever. I'm fine. Listen, but I do want to weigh in on some of the things you guys said. As far as I didn't get in through nepotism either. I didn't know anybody specifically. It's kind of when you said you can't force your way in. It's like, yeah, but I kind of did the way that Marc Anthony's talking about. So I could fight already. I've been fighting since I was like 16, and I could dance and I could do flips and stuff, right? And I had a guy I was teaching to dance actually, who was an actor named Roger Edwards, and he was in I think Jarhead or something. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I need to learn to dance because I'm black." And I was like, "What does that have to do with anything?" He says, "Eventually they're gonna ask me to dance in a movie." So I would teach him how to pop lock and stuff, this kind of stuff, for money. And so then he said, "Hey, all those things you do for fun at the club," he said, "when you're dancing and battling," he said, "that's stunts. You should do that." And so eventually, 4 or 5 years after that, I was in Austin and I had an opportunity to get really involved. And I didn't know anybody. Like there was no one I knew I could go to at the time. And so I was just doing whatever was on Craigslist, whatever things I saw, whatever ads, I'd go to those. And it wasn't until I got connected with Robert Brown, who's another stunt guy who's out in LA now, that I started really doing a lot of stunt training. But by that time I already had Ballistic Blade. So when I wasn't getting cast in things and when there wasn't anyone for me to double or whatever, because that was one of my issues, I'm 6 foot even, about 190 pounds, right? There's not a black guy in a movie who looks like me. Who am I doubling? So in Texas, we weren't doing a lot of action where there were guys who looked like me that I could double. So I was either going to be a bad guy and I just didn't see a lot of roles like that, or I had to go make my own opportunity. So we'd go in the yard with some cameras and fight. that's how I got known in Austin, really, was getting cameras and me and my friends doing fights and practicing. And what we were doing is we were mimicking things we saw on the internet, mimicking the falls, mimicking whatever, until I took a class. It was like a stunt training, I think Janelle Vela-Smith put on, and I met Zico Farizada and I met Robert Stephen Brown. And when I met those two, they introduced me to some more stuff and some more technical things. Then by that time, I had already started working on a feature film, and I did a casting call for my feature film. And then I met Dashade Moonbeam, Jeffrey Johnson. I met Damon Smith. I met John Sabberry. These are the guys that teach like lightsaber combat, but they also do African warrior arts. And so I met with those guys, and then they kind of took me under their wing in instruction. And once I had some training under my belt, things really started to move. But I didn't have like a big, like an OG stunt coordinator who was like putting me onto things. And I didn't go pay the type of respects that you normally pay. I was helpful and friendly when I was on set, and when I was able to go to mixers and meet people like Christian or Jeff Wolf or Schwani. When I was in those places, I was always nice and cordial and introducing. I was helpful as I possibly could be, but I kind of had to get much of it on my own. And then once I kind of got stuff going, then I got kind of pulled into those circles, and it kind of worked out that way. So it's like a little half and half.
And, you know, I will add this bit, you know, I don't want people to think that it's like this overwhelming, that it's, you know, difficult to break into. If I can recommend anything, it would be live shows, live stunt shows. I really got my start in live stunt shows. That's not what brought me into film and TV, but that's what, the day in and day out, doing a show 6 times a day. And I ended up doing the live show for 5 years all over the world. I got to travel. I got to do all these cool things. And all these people that I met that ended up opening that door for me they were doing the live shows with me. Was before they were in stunt coordinating and whatnot. But I was better than most everybody around me. Didn't know it, but I was, because I was doing it day in, day out. I was training daily, 6 times a day, doing fight choreography, doing high falls, fire burns, ratchet pulls, all these different things.
And when the Cali was like that.
That's exactly right. And so, you know, I just ran this big thing for Marvel called the Marvel Universe Live, where we did arena shows all over the world, man. And I started off as a stunt trainer, and I became the director of that show. And we kept losing actors, and they're like, why are we losing actors? Because everybody was hiring them because they were so well trained. They were doing it day in and day out. So when the auditions would come up, they would go in and they would just shine, because someone who trains once a week versus someone that trains, you know, 5 times a day, 5 days a week, there's a huge gap in ability there. And it's all just skills and second nature at that point. So I would say, for anybody that's new, that's looking to break into stunts, that the live show is the training ground. And you know, there used to be a time where that wasn't quite acceptable, but the vast majority of the stunt guys I know today came up in the live shows. A lot of the stunt coordinators. My roommate Adam Horowitz is over here trying to not be on screen. Hey, me. So, you know, that's all. And there he is. So all kinds of training opportunities. So before you're ready to go, be ready. And live shows gives you that opportunity.
And actually, when I was training with Gilder Silent Sword and Damon Stiff and all those guys, they're live action guys. They were doing wrestling and live steel combat sword play. Like they were like the most legit
Absolutely.
Guys I'd ever seen. I saw them do a demonstration one time at SAFD with blunted steel, and it looked like a fight scene. And I was like, they're just that good. They're that fast. They train all the time.
It still hurts when it gets your knuckles.
Absolutely. But like what you're saying is like when you can do things live, you can do that Tony Jaa-esque one take for 15 minutes when you've been training like that and you don't get a cut and you don't have a break. Like most people can't do that. One of the things I will say for anybody who's interested in getting going, Erica, anyone else, is that you probably have a skill that you don't realize that you have. To you, it's just a thing you did. To somebody else, it is a stunt. You know, that gymnastics you learn to do in high school, it might be a really good round off you do. Some actors can't do that. Find something that you can train everything, get good, but like if you have a thing that can set you apart, if you can roller skate, if you can rollerblade, if there's a thing like that, highlight that talent. And in 2021 with social media and all this stuff, like people can see what you're good at. Like I'll give you a prime example. Like I did a lot of stuff as a kid I didn't think mattered, right? But I used to roller skate a lot. I didn't realize that was valuable until I put a post up on Instagram one time and I had people contacting me about doing a video with the roller skates because I was learning how to rhythm skate. I didn't realize it was something people couldn't do. I just thought everybody could do that stuff. So you probably have some unique skill sets and some stuff that you're pretty good at that I may not be good at. And you maybe played lacrosse in high school. I can't do that. Highlight those talents because those are things that can set you apart. And maybe there's a role that's like perfect for you and they're looking for you for this one thing. And then once you're in the door for that specialty skill, now they're like, oh, this is a good person. She's great. He's awesome. And then it just comes from there. Then it's just a matter of character and training. So.
And to back that up, there's just a casting for stunt people that came out looking for roller skaters. They were looking for expert roller skaters. Literally happened last week, you know? So that's the truth. Football, playing football, that's a specialty. People, you know, they make football movies and they're people,
yes.
You know, football coordinators, they need people to hit the ground, to tackle, to catch, all that stuff. That's real deal stuff.
I put a link in the chat there, bit.ly/setikit, if anyone wants to take a peek. That it basically just says, come in, do your job, be polite, and get the hell out. Don't assume that because people are friendly to you they're your friend. You might have the job that they was hoping their brother was going to get. Don't touch anyone else's equipment. If it turns out broken, you'll be the one who gets blamed for it. You know, it's sufficient to just come in, be friendly, do your job, and leave.
Yes.
Everyone on set is stressed, and you don't want to be the lightning rod for someone else's stress because you were in the wrong place. Stick with your department, with your team, stick with your boss, and you know, leave them wanting more, not wishing you were left sooner.
I love the 14th hour. You talked about being on set for 14th hour. Like I love 40-hour film festivals because I like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Because like I'm always auditioning people.
Yeah.
So when we're on set, a lot of times people don't know who I am. So I walk on a set and they're like, oh, it's some dude, he's going to do some fighting, or I'm an actor that day. And they don't know that I produce my own stuff or I have a production company or any of the other stuff that you guys all know. And I don't go on there and act like I'm all extra. I'm normal. I'm having a good time. If I get to go on set and just act, I'm so excited because it's like, I don't have to be responsible for everything that's happening. It's so exciting, right? But I'm also auditioning. And so what I'll do is I want to see when it gets to 8, 9, 10 hours in, when the stress starts to hit, I'm like, who over here would I want in the trenches with me when it gets rough?
Yep.
It's not about how you act when the food is perfect and the weather is nice and everything's flawless. Because the first gigs I did when I was doing background and extra work, which are great places to get into this, by the way, you meet a lot of cool people. The first gigs I remember doing was like Revolution. And I will never forget, I was on Revolution, New Vegas. I was in the New Vegas area, right? When we shot it, it was summer. When they did the reshoots, it was November and it was freezing cold. So I'm in leather pants, an A shirt, and like a little cotton vest. We are shivering. It sucks. It's terrible. But you're watching people to see who's going to crack. You want it to be safe, but you're looking to see who's going to be able to hold up under the difficulty. Because when you make a movie, stuff always goes wrong. I can't have somebody with my team who's going to panic and go crazy if things don't go exactly as they're planned. You have to be able to have some fortitude. So one of the best things you can do is when things are going wrong, be the solution. Do not be the element that adds to the chaos and the fire. Help put the fire out. You know, you want to be the pyro nemesis, as they say. You don't want to be the pyromaniac, okay? You want to be the guy who puts it out. So that's one of the biggest things that can set you apart from the other people who are involved.
Yep.
Wow, thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
So we're running later than expected. Do we have time for one more question? I saw a thumbs up. All right. So Will, do you have a question? Elizabeth, you did say you don't have a question, but if you changed your mind, and let's see, David, no questions yet if you want to ask one. And Chanel, anyway, I just want to make sure. And then if none of you have a question, I believe Kathy had another question. So who wants to ask the very last final question?
Going. God, mine relates to what Kendra was asking about, because I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not a director, but I am a screenwriter in addition to being an actor. And the feature I'm currently writing has to do with two young lesbians in the Deep South in the 1950s. One's black, one's white, and it doesn't go well for them. So there are 3 different fight sequences in this story. And one of the reasons I asked you about, do you read the whole script or do you see the whole thing, is that I did, this is where Kendra was talking about, I did choreograph all 3 of those fights, because there's certain elements of them, either where they take place or things that are used during the fight and so forth, that have been set up elsewhere in the story or pay off later in the story. And so if you come to a scene and you're reading it, for example, my heroine has a pocket knife, a pen knife that she uses early in the story. And then it comes up later in a critical fight scene where she has it up against the young fella's throat. If you're doing the fight choreography and you're saying, oh, this would be better if it were a switchblade, well, now that affects 2 other scenes that may have already been shot. So presuming I'm not on set, who on set would worry about those continuity type of things? Another scene, at the end of the scene, it takes place by the railroad tracks. There's a portion of it where she gets thrown against the rail and then jerked away just in time. I don't mind if you take that out. But at the end of the scene, she has to get on that boxcar and ride away, because that's a story element. So who is it that would kind of make sure that there's not on-set changes to the fight sequence that screw up other aspects of the story?
I think that is your director. I mean, that because
okay.
Those elements are so intrinsic to the story that's not something that would be arbitrarily by us anyway. You know, ours would be suggestive based on practicality, but knowing the story, knowing that switchblade or that blade is part of the intrinsic story, I would never ask to replace that. I might have
but if you've only looked at the thing, if you haven't read the script, you may not realize that it appears elsewhere.
I would
innocently suggest that it be a switchblade or something.
Yeah, I would have read the script, and that's one of the reasons I try to read from. I want to know the story, because I want to know. I believe every fight is an extension of the storytelling, and so
that's why I did choreograph them in the way I did.
And I need to know the motivations and what's going on with the characters to understand what some of the fighting, where it's coming from. So that would never, if that got changed, that would be above my pay grade.
Okay. And then in the case where I've got an 18-year-old girl hopping onto a boxcar to ride it away, she's fueled by adrenaline and everything, but I don't know the practicality of how high she could jump to get into the boxcar. And Benjamin would not be eligible for one of the roles unless you can play a 16-year-old, but girl.
and there's a couple of ways to attach that.
Some things like that. If you could figure out a way that she could tell herself to get her in that damn boxcar, I'd be happy.
There's a couple of ways that we could do that. You could do that with a double. You could have a double for the 16-year-old. You could do that in editing. You can do that in a camera. There are ways to cheat it. So you can tell your story, and for instance, we've got. Let's just say we're chasing that boxcar. I'm going to bring a double in. I'm only going to shoot her legs.
I would hope so.
I'll shoot her legs. She's running across the railroad ties, trying to catch the box car. Then I would cut to the camera that's in front of her, where maybe a cutaway to her hand grabbing the rail, and then cut to a camera in front of her pulling herself up. And so in editing, we never once used an actor or stunt person.
I got you. Yeah.
But I cut it in such a way that it seemed like we actually did the stunt, or we could do the stunt, you know.
But the fundamental thing is I shouldn't worry about how, as the writer, I shouldn't have to worry about the practicalities of being able to shoot it. Because that's not my business as the writer.
George Lucas had no idea how he was going to make a spaceship or a Death Star. He just wrote a story and then it happened, right? So the imagination.
Good point.
We practically don't have, the imagination has no boundaries, but in reality we do. We have to figure out how we want to do it. But you let the story be the story and we'll figure it out.
That's my fundamental question is I shouldn't worry about how it's going to get done. I should write what I would love to see in the story.
And I'll be honest with you, if you sell that script, a producer's going to take a look at it. He may go, okay, I don't know how we're going to do that. We may need a rewrite here. There are things that happen to get around stuff, but at the end of the day, you tell your story and let everything else revolve around that, because story, in my humble opinion, is central to everything. Because a fight makes no sense if there's not a reason for it. A stunt makes no sense if it's just arbitrary. It all tells a story. It all builds to a certain point.
Okay. Benjamin, you look like you had a comment to make.
No, I mean, he's right.
But besides my suggestion that you play a 16-year-old.
Yeah, that's irritating. I mean, I can wear a wig, it's fine. But what I'm saying is, and have nice legs, just putting that out there. In reference to...
Let's see him.
Uh-oh.
Well, I think he might have more trouble with the sexual violence scenes. So
no, yeah, probably a little different. Erica might get mad, but no, when it comes to the actual like stunt stuff like that, like for instance, I'm often producing mine. So if I know I have a budget of $3 million, I might already be working through it because that's what I kind of do. If it's something outside of my pay grade, I might ask Christian or I might ask Marc Anthony, hey man, how can we do this cheaply? Right. And they'll say, oh, we could do blah, 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 blah. And I might say, okay, well, the main focus is I want to show this emotion. We work out the cuts and however we can make that piece that together. But you as a writer, you don't have to be overly concerned with that. Like that is why you ask one of us and we'll have ideas. Like Christian just gave you off the top of his head a way to shoot it with a stunt person, without a stunt person. I'm sure Marc Anthony has some sort of a rig. He might say, if you really want to have somebody do this, I'm going to wire them to the side of the,
but it's not
whatever. It's not the writer's problem. It's the director's problem. It's the stunt coordinator's problem.
Exactly.
You write the story and we figure the rest out.
Exactly. That's what we like to do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kathy Rose. All right, team, I've got a jet. I want to thank you guys so much for letting me join you tonight.
I was just going to say the same thing. Thank you to all of you. Wow, I learned a lot. I really enjoyed it. And yes, everybody can unmute to clap for our speakers.
Yay.
Clap for our audience.
Thank you.
I like to say a shout out to Barry. Barry is like one of the most honest, humble, hardworking persons I've ever known. Barry is like a gem. And I want to say thank you, Barry, for contacting these people and helping them with this, because Barry has so much passion for what he does. And I'm grateful for his friendship. And I'm glad he's my publicist. But I tell you what, without Barry, I don't know where I'd be, because he's like definitely opened doors for me. And I'm grateful. So thank you, Barry.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Much appreciated.
And I wanted to thank all you 4 speakers, Barry, Tootie, Judith, everybody for helping. This has been great. It's been our first virtual meeting. And I'll tell you, you guys added a lot of information, incredible amount of information, inspiration from the heart, talked about ethics and attitude and intentions. And that's the most important thing in the world, is being respectful, listening. Thank you. I thank all 4 of you, Barry, Judith for helping, Trudy, and God bless y'all. Thank you. I just wanted to add my 2 cents in on that.
Awesome.
Oh, on that note, in case anyone actually doesn't know who Gary is, he's one of the co-founders of the Network Austin Mixer.
Oh, wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
And he is multi-talented, has a beautiful heart and a passion for the entertainment industry and other things as an author. So thank you, Gary, because without you, there wouldn't have been a Network Austin Mixer.
Well, thank y'all. I got into it accidentally. A friend of mine in 2004, an actor, Doran Ingram, noticed that there wasn't a meeting organization for actors. So he started it, then I joined in, and it took off quite well for several years. COVID surely slowed it down 2 years ago, but it looks like we're on a new start. And if we get guests and speakers as interesting as you folks, we are definitely on a good start. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Good night, all.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you so much, Steve.
Thank you so much for having us all.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Thank
my
you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you so much, Christian.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys have a
And
wonderful evening.
did I miss saying thank you to Mark? Is he gone already?
I'm right here. I just set my camera off because my daughter's getting tired.
Aw,
She's,
okay.
she's my ride or die. She's with me all the time.
Aw. Well, I'm just so grateful for all of you. Benjamin, I have always called you Benjamin, but I heard so many people calling you Ben. Can I call you that now?
It's fine. Ben, Benjamin, Mino, Lord Violence. I go by all these names.
Don't call me late for dinner.
Exactly. A man has many names.
Yeah. And by the way, those words from Christian about Barry, he is a great guy. I'm just recently getting to know him. He and Tootie, I couldn't have done this alone. They just were amazing, are amazing. And if anyone needs a publicist, see Barry over there?
Absolutely. And those words, they came from Marc, but I was thinking them. I put some Xavier into that.
And if anyone needs a gorgeous actress who is multi-talented, see Tootie over there? She's pretty amazing. I've known her for a number of years and she's really great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So, thank you again, everybody. Tootie, if you could not close out the Zoom yet until I make sure I figured out how to keep the recording, that'd be great.
Okay.
And Elizabeth, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you have become one of our new great, wonderful volunteers, willing to just help where you can. And everybody else who came, all you attendees, thanks for coming. And I'm going to try to get this out. I hope one of us succeeds in getting the recording and turning it into a video to put it on our Network Austin Mixer YouTube channel. And all the people who weren't here, they'll get to be sorry they weren't here.
No, it's awesome. Well, yeah, please do that. I'll share it once it's up. Definitely on Austin Action Fest and on the Ballistic Blade page. So once you have a YouTube link, let me know and I'll go ahead and push that out as well.
All right, great. Yeah, kind of make sure you're following these 4 guys that we had here. Benjamin with Ballistic Blade and Austin Action Fest, and whatever film he's on at any given moment, he's almost always doing something. And Kristen, you probably have and Steve is already gone, but you got his bit.ly/Sedicate link. I hope it's above if you want to scroll up in the chat. And Marc Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
You have what is the name of your website again?
It's Extreme Force USA with no E.
There you go.
XTREME. Yep.
So did I miss anyone, or I want to make sure you all shout out, plug what you've got there that attendees can go look for to find out more about you and what you do and for themselves.
Got a couple of TV shows going out right now that I got Leverage Redemption on IMDb TV, and I've got an episode or 2 coming up of Doom Patrol on HBO. So check those out.
Nice.
So I get a recurring character on that. So I want a 4th season, by golly.
Nice.
Dude
Yeah.
Patrol? Is it Dude Patrol?
Doom Patrol
Patrol.
on HBO. It's a DC TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that last season.
I play a CGI gorilla named Mashura Malas, French-speaking crazy Brotherhood of Evil bad guy. It's pretty cool.
I saw the image of the gorilla. Okay, got it. I'm in now. I'm in for it. Yeah, I'm coming off of movies, but I'm currently working on a project called Chronicles of a Broken Path. And that is a fantasy sword and sorcery little number we're doing here in Texas. So we're looking for some producers. We're probably looking to do something very, very low budget because that's what the investor wants to do. We're trying to see if we can do it for under 200 grand in Texas. So we will see how that all shakes out. So
I want to see that succeed.
Yeah, keep me posted on that. I'd love to audition for a couple of roles.
We'll figure something out, boss.
Yeah, you bet.
And in case you missed it, in the chat, Barry has his website there.
Oh, got it.
Because if you don't have a publicist, you need him. So on that note, unless I'm missing anything, I guess I need to say good night.
Yes, ma'am. You all have
Good night, everyone. And thank you so much. Everybody, appreciate you guys listening and hanging out and inviting me in the first place. What a great opportunity to just, I believe that your network is everything in this business. And so what a great opportunity to network. So thank you guys so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. You guys have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Bye for now.
Break lots of stuff.